Welcome back, class. Today we're going through the last of the American presidents. Today's presidents are James Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald J. Trump. Our first president today is James Carter, better known as Jimmy Carter. He is our oldest living president today. He and his wife Rosalind have been married for 70 years. Jimmy Carter billed himself as an outsider to Washington politics, playing on the country's disillusionment after the Watergate scandal. He had a straight-talking, down-to-earth charm that won the public over in the 1976 election. His presidency, however, dealt with rising unemployment, energy crisis, and rising inflation. This partially led to his defeat in the election of 1980. In 1979, a mob of armed Iranian students took over the U.S. Embassy and held the 52 diplomatic staff as hostages. Carter's failure to free the hostages took a toll on his presidency, especially after a failed rescue attempt in 1980. Carter worked up until the night before Reagan's inauguration to free the hostages, and the hostages were freed the next day after President Reagan's inauguration. They had been held for 444 days. Carter spent his post-White House years dedicated to public service. He worked with Habitats for Humanity. He negotiated peace terms between Bosnian Serbs and Muslims. He also negotiated with North Korea to end their nuclear weapons program. President Carter lost out to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan, an actor whose films were nominated for Oscar awards. He would go on to win his re-election campaign in 1984. President Reagan's election demonstrated a shift in American politics from the left-leaning New Deal politics to a more conservative right-wing approach. The Reagan administration enacted a major tax cut, sought to cut non-military spending, and eliminated federal regulations. His economic policies were known as Reaganomics. He did increase military spending. President Reagan appointed more judges than any other president, including 4 Supreme Court justices. Those included the first female to serve on the Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor. Reagan was an anti-communist and made it a goal to roll back communistic influences around the globe. The Reagan administration initiated a massive buildup of the United States military, promoted new technologies such as missile defense systems, and in 1987, President Reagan called for the Soviet Union to tear down the Berlin Wall, which had split the city of Berlin in two since 1961. In 1989, the Berlin Wall came down, effectively demonstrating the end of the Soviet Union in the Cold War. In 1981, the president survived an assassination attempt. He was hit by a .22 that had ricocheted off the presidential limousine and rushed to the hospital. The wannabe assassin was John Hinckley Jr., who somehow thought that if he was able to kill the president, the actress Jodie Foster, who Hinckley was obsessed with, would finally see him. Ronald Reagan left office in 1989 and lived until 2004, where he died at the age of 93. His vice president, George H.W. Bush, became the next president. President Bush was a Navy vet who served as an airplane pilot in World War II. He went on 58 missions and was shot down by the Japanese and rescued by a submarine after parachuting out of his plane. He earned a Distinguished Flying Cross. He also attended Yale University and led their baseball team to 2 College World Series wins before graduating with a degree in economics. After serving 2 terms in the House of Representatives, he was appointed by President Nixon as the ambassador to the United Nations in 1970. President Ford appointed him the director of the CIA. President Carter declined his invitation to continue as the head of the CIA. President Bush's term focused on the Persian Gulf War. His goal was to prevent Iraq from invading Saudi Arabia. This was an American victory. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, Bush successfully pushed for the reunification of Germany. And George H.W. Bush had made his campaign promise to not raise taxes. However, he was not able to keep that promise. It is this that critics think cost him the presidency. It is this that critics think cost the president his second term. He lost to Democrat William J. Clinton. William J. Clinton, better known as Bill Clinton, was the youngest Arkansas governor at age 32. He and his wife, Hillary Clinton, were in the governor's mansion for 12 years before he ran for and became our 42nd president. He signed into law the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, but failed to pass his plan for national health care reform. During the last 3 years of Clinton's presidency, the Congressional Budget Office reported a budget surplus, the first such surplus since 1969. In 1998, President Clinton was impeached by the House of Representatives, becoming the second but not the last president to be impeached, the first being Andrew Johnson in 1868. He was impeached for committing perjury while trying to cover up an extramarital affair he had while in the White House. President Clinton left office with the highest end-of-term approval rating since the end of World War II. Clinton presided over the longest period of peacetime economic expansion in American history. After leaving office in 2001, Clinton wrote his autobiography, founded the Clinton Foundation, and continued public speaking. He campaigned for his wife's successful Senate campaign and her 2008 and 2016 presidential runs. Our next president is the son of former President George H.W. Bush, and they are the only second set of father-son presidents in United States history, the other pair being John Adams and John Quincy Adams. The next president is George W. Bush, who is often referred to as W. Only 9 months after Bush was inaugurated, the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001 occurred. This would be the main focus of President Bush's first term, and his high approval rating while dealing with the crisis is listed as one of his main reasons why he won a second term in 2004. President Bush would create the Office of Homeland Security and pass the Patriot Act in response to the attacks. In 2003, the United States also invaded Iraq to overthrow the dictator Saddam Hussein. Bush's advisors thought that Hussein had weapons of mass destruction that could be used to help terrorists. However, after Hussein was captured, no weapons of mass destruction was found, and the Iraq War became unpopular, and Bush's approval rating dropped. Bush's approval ratings continued to drop with the perceived slow response to Hurricane Katrina, an economic downturn, and rising unemployment. He left office in 2008, but continues to be a public figure in America. Our 44th president is also our first African-American, Barack Obama. His wife, Michelle, moved their 2 daughters into the White House in 2009. He was a former Illinois senator before making his presidential bid. During Obama's presidency, the leader of September 11th terrorist attacks, Osama bin Laden, was finally captured and killed. Former First Lady and President Obama's opponent in the 2008 election, Hillary Clinton, was his Secretary of State at the time. He signed the Affordable Care Act into law in 2010, often called Obamacare. The act was designed to make health insurance moral for American people. Some of Obama's other plans did not make it through the Republican-controlled Congress. Some of his accomplishments include opening diplomatic relations with Cuba and making nuclear program agreement with Iran. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009. After his presidency, the Obamas continued to do charity work, and Michelle published a book. Barack continues to work on his third book. This brings us to our current president, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. As a child, he was sent to New York Military Academy. In 1976, he renovated the rundown Commodore Hotel and turned it into the highly successful Grand Hyatt Hotel. His slogan was "Make America Great Again," and he focused on border security, providing jobs for the middle class, and lowering the national debt during his campaign. He emphasized that he was not a politician and was anti-establishment and promised to drain the swamp. Trump advocated for an American first foreign policy. He favors increasing military defense spending, but wants the United States to be less involved in foreign affairs. Trump withdrew the United States from a proposed trade agreement called Trans-Pacific Partnership and increased tariffs on Chinese goods. He also rolled back policies directed at reducing pollution and climate change, and he withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Agreement on climate change. President Trump was impeached in 2020 for asking Ukraine to investigate the presumptive Democratic nominee in the House, but was acquitted in the Senate. This was shortly followed by the COVID-19 pandemic spreading in the U.S. He is currently running for re-election. Thank you for joining me today for the last of the American presidents. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. And as always, keep on learning.